What is synesthesia? Have you ever expressed a moment when melody brings vivid image of the place or memory to your mind? Or perhaps, when hearing a specific tone, colors or shapes appear before your eyes? Now, close your eyes and listen carefully. What do you see? Hold on to that feeling and let your imagination roam freely. This is one of the most fascinating phenomena of human perception. It is called synesthesia. Synesthesia translates one sensory experience into another, such as the association between colors and emotions. The renowned synesthetic artist Vasily Kandinsky wrote in his book on the spiritual in art.
Seeing is not just a matter of taste, but also an influence on other senses. To the eye, some colors appear sharp and piercing, while others seem velvety, inviting a tactile response. Some colors look cold and hard. Even fresh from the tube, they appear dry.
The synesthetic experience of sound-color association is equally captivating. Lawrence A. Marks, in his work on color hearing synesthesia, discusses how color hearing synesthesia demonstrates the relationship between auditory and visual experiences. The brightness of light corresponds to the brightness, density of the sound, and the size of the perceived light changes with the sound volume. A friend once told me how, when listening to a song, they could see various colors in their mind. For example, violin music appears as shimmering white and yellow lines dancing together. In contrast, the deep bassoon sounded like a sliding block of brown and deep green. Miles, Butler, and Larkin describe cello tones as resembling the texture of dark violet or red-brown tree trunks. Meanwhile, flute music might evoke the image of dry, translucent pink hues. Another example is the case of Subject S 1968, a monomanic expect and synesthetic. When exposed to a tone of 50 Hz at 100 decibel, Subject S reported seeing brown steps against a dark background with red edges resembling a tongue. They described the test as sweet and sour bulges so gripping their entire tongue. At 2000 Hz and 113 decibel, Subject S described it as
like fireworks with a pink hue. The stripes feel rough, unpleasant, and taste like pickles.
Synesthesia typically begins in early childhood, distinguished it from ordinary memory-based associations, where certain smells or sounds can evoke vivid memories. Such reactions are rarely as consistent or enduring as synesthetic responses. But could synesthetic responses be related to memory and recollection? For instance, seeing a flashing police car may make us mentally simulate the sound of its siren. Similarly, standing at the red traffic light might prompt us to imagine the pedestrian signals dee-dee. Even in silence, our mind often fills in this sound. Such reverse synesthesia, where vision triggers auditory sensations, might arise from habitual memories of recurring visual stimuli in daily life. I personally cannot hear sound when looking at a painting or image. However, in an experiment by Boring Cohen et al. 1996, two synesthetists reported hearing specific sounds when their gaze moved across Kandinsky's painting, Composition 8, 1923. One of them described,
"There's a loud, bold sound in the top left corner, booming yet slightly coarse. Beneath it, a muffled E sound transforms into O and Ah, while circles emit popping sounds. Sharp lines produce metallic noises, like blades scraping against each other. The triangles and boomerang shapes are surprising, giving off a laughing woo sound."
This description reminds me of graphic scores, which use visual elements and conventional symbols, shapes, and texts to represent musical notes. This score intuitively expresses pitch, duration, and rhythm. Contemporary experimental music has adopted such hybrid notation system to explore new methods of performance, promoting synesthetic connections between sound and visual. Music, therefore, is not only an auditory art form, but also a visual and imaginative one. At a seminar held by Chinese Academy of Art, the topic graphic score and music painting synesthesia in 20th century composition was explored. The discussion aimed to uncover the pathway through which music and painting intervene, unlocking the potential of ordinary and visual art to merge. By examining the structural principle of composition and the core elements of music, the seminar delved into the materials and frameworks of graphic scores, often referred to as musical paintings. It sought to reveal the essential connections between music and painting, ultimately broadening the horizon of creativity and imagination for musicians and artists alike. So, what is the background of music painting synesthesia? Synesthesia is a phenomenon where the stimulation of one sense triggers a response in another. While all five senses can interact to create a unified aesthetic experience, the most common form of synesthesia is a combination of sight and sound. Richard E. Satowick in Synesthesia, a unit of the senses, documented that the earliest recorded cause of synesthesia date back to 1690. In his research, the Oxford philosopher John Locke noted a blind man who claimed to perceive the color scarlet whenever he heard the sound of the trumpet. Since the 19th century, the analogy between music and other art forms has been expressed in various ways, ranging from simple correspondences between visual art and music to more complex systems. For instance, the name of musical terms were often used as titles for paintings. Conversely, visual artists frequently draw inspiration directly from musical works. These paintings not only incorporated specific musical pieces, but also sought to create new visual scores. Some of the most ambitious artists even attempted to apply the technique of musical composition to visual art. Judith Silker, in her essay Color Music Synesthesia and 19th Century Sources for Abstract Art, analyzed this fascinating intersection between music and painting. One of the most celebrated synesthetic artists is Wassily Kandinsky. On January 2, 1911, Kandinsky attended a concert in Munich featuring the works of composer Arnold Schoenberg. Inspired by the powerful performance, he created his painting Impression 3 concert the very next day. Kandinsky describes this painting as capturing external impressions that are both visual and ordinary, a phenomenon he called hearing colors. In his seminal book on the spiritual inner, 1912, Kandinsky expressed his firm belief in the concept of correspondence, a modern theory of synesthesia that served as a key factor in his artistic philosophy. He argued that the essence of both painting and music lie in their adherence to the principle of abstract composition. As Kandinsky wrote,
"From this perspective, painting has already captured the essence of music. The two are increasingly approaching the creation of absolute works, objective creations that exist independently and adhere to the laws of nature."
Another example of synesthetic arts comes from Anna Soth, a Dutch artist who explored the relationship between music and visual patterns. One of her most famous works, Vivaldi, was inspired by Vivaldi's The Four Seasons, Violin Concerto No. 4. In this piece, Soth used vibrant orange and yellow hues with meticulously placed black diamond shapes. She explained,
The lively passages of the music transform into radiant orange, while the black structures provide rhythm and reveal its meaning and character. This foundation of moving colors is indispensable. When I hear the music again, this painting evokes my feelings. When I look at the painting, I hear the melody in my mind.
As a phenomenon of cross-sensory experience, synesthesia has gained global attention of its universality and artistic value. From the paintings of Western artist Wassily Kandinsky to the graphic score of modern experimental music, synesthesia reveals a profound connection between the senses and infuses artistic creation with unique imagination. However, this phenomenon does not reflect Western artistic practice. In Chinese culture, there is also a form of intersensory expression known as tonggan. Tonggan is more than a rhetorical concept. It is a perceptual intersection and permeates literature, music, visual art, and everyday language. A concept known in English as intermodal metaphor, which, unlike illusion, which emphasizes the physiological responses of individual senses, refers to perception that involves the perception of two or more different sensory modalities. It breaks down the boundaries of the senses and creates artistic expressions of profound aesthetic significance. This phenomenon is particularly evident in classic Chinese literature, which interaction between vision, hearing, smell, and touch frequently appear in tongue and song poetry. These unique cultural characteristics not only continue the cross-sensory nature of synesthesia, but also reflects the Chinese tradition of veiling imagery and artistic refinement. The rhetorical technique of tonggan in literary creation is often closely related to artistic conception, serving as a handful of descriptive technique beyond ordinary literary embellishment. For instance, in some poetry, there's a line, 云香近紫渊, which literally means the clouds carrying the fragrance near the monkeys which living in deep mountains forests, whose mournful cries symbolize the sorrow of hurting in ancient times. The beauty of this line in evoking fragrance without directly mentioning it. The visual element of yun means clouds, connects with the olfactory element of xiang means fragrance, demonstrating an artistic creation of tunga. This is an example of how poets break the boundaries of sensory perception, integrating colors, sounds, movement, and stillness into a harmonious composition. Similarly, in the Tang Dynasty poet Jia Dao's poem 鹤思 Guest Source, there's a line 促之声尖尖似针, which translates to the cricket's chirping is sharp like a needle. Here, the ordinary perception of 促之声 means the cricket's chirping is transformed into a visual and tactile perception of needle. The poet used shape of a needle as a modifier for the sound of the cricket, creating a cross-sensory connection between hearing and sight. Moreover, some Chinese idioms also contain metaphor involving taste. For example, 味同嚼蜡, which means as tasty as shaving legs. It's used to describe something dull and uninteresting. This motif conveys an emotional state through the sense of taste, forming a unique sensory association. Such rhetorical technique enrich literary work by adding multiple layers of sensory perception. Another rather unusual example is that Chinese characters has 4 sounds, 4 readings, and 4 symbols. The first sound is a flat short horizontal line. The second sound is a short diagonal horizontal line and runs down left and up the right. The third sound is a symbol that looks like a letter V, and the fourth sound is the short diagonal horizontal line that runs up the left and down the right. In primary school, our Chinese teacher will teach us to memorize the pronunciation of some confusing characters. For example, how to pronounce the reply 颠簸 spur, which superficially describes an uneven road. It is pronounced as bo or bo. Tilting the head literally means tilting the head up, so literally it is an upward diatonic tone. And this cross-sensory poetry is not unique to Chinese literature and art. Similar metaphorical expressions can be found in Western literature, in French symbolist poetry.
A noir, E blanc, I rouge, U vert, O bleu. Voyelles, je dirai quelques jours vos naissances latentes. A, noir corset velu des mouches éclatantes qui bombinent autour des puanteurs cruelles, golfe d'ombre. E, candeur des vapeurs et des tentes, lance des glaciers fiers, roi blanc, frisson d'ombelle. I, pourpre, sang craché, rire des lèvres belles, dans la colère ou les ivresses pénitentes. U, cycle, vibrement divin des mers virides, paix des pâtis semés d'animaux, paix des rides que l'alchimie imprime au grand front studieux. Ô suprême clairon plein des strideurs étranges, silence traversé des mondes et des anges. Ô l'oméga, rayon violet de ses yeux.
This is the most famous poem of the French poet How the Rainbow, where the poet plays with colors, with words, letters, colors, and sounds. Bombardment, love, anger, panic, gaps, to create the brilliantly colored pictures that have become the precursors of Hanika. Wells become employed and mark their own reality, means the color potential bursts, colors are symbolic. For darkness, quality, the value of night. The stench of quality, the abyss of shadow. White for pain, color is. Red for blood, sorrow, anger, excess. prayers for green, serenity of peace, and for blue, a religious call to symbolize heaven, the trumpet of the Most High, the end goal. It becomes purple to evoke the eyes of women. As a rainbow swirl ascends different colors to different voices. A is black, E is white, I is red, creating a sensory cross-sensory experience that blurs the boundaries between sight and sound. Chinese scholar Gou Zhiming suggests the cross-modality is an appeal to sensory states based on association, subject memory, express, and automatic manifestation at the level of consciousness. For example, in daily life, when people witness dark blue or dark green oil walls in the heat of summer, the sense of coolness is but natural. Raw sea red, yellow, and orange in the cold winter, the heart will feel warm. This is because people in the long-term life experience form a specific colors and temperature correlation between certain. It's the overall characteristics of human perception and some specific sensory features of the results triggered by the mutual touch. Chinese rhetorical technique, Europe to modern literature, cross-modal metaphor have played an important role in expanding the expressive potential of language and enhancing sensory engagement. This fusion of sensory experiences has enabled literary artists and writers to create multi-layered works that incorporate sensory styles boundaries. However, the exploration of cross-sensory expression stops at language and literature. In contemporary art, especially with the development of digital media, interactive technologies, and immersive experiences, artists have begun to extend the notion of cross-modal metaphor from language to actual sensory experience. Through the conceptual sound, light, and shadow, the perceptual feedback equivalent to taste and perception, artists create a multidimensional art that transcends a single sense, so that the viewer no longer simply read or watch the art, but directly feel the art. This trend has led to a shift in cross-modal metaphors from abstract cognitive phenomena to concrete multisensory art, simulating and even intensifying the possibility of association experience by integrating sound, light, movement, and even touch. Contemporary artists create multisensory installations that blur the boundaries between visual, auditory, and perceptual experiences, changing the way we perceive and engage with art, where the viewer is no longer a watcher of a watcher's observer, but rather a participant in an ever-changing sensory environment. This multisensory approach offers more possibilities with immersion in the artwork. Svetlana Rudenko, together with Dr. John Deniana, professor at Trinity College, Dublin, had developed a computer model for the formation of musical spatial synesthesia, a four-dimensional visualization of musical textures. Generating a hierarchy of musical elements in this model produces a visual landscape in co-sensory thinking, reflecting the volumetry perception of sound, and software created with processing can be animated in real time during performance, with visual microphones reacting to capture audio, and visual volumetric visualizations of musical textures can give the audience a different express of sensing, phrasing, and timing during the performance. The multidisciplinary research project Tetractys also combines science, music, and artistic vision, with Dr. Svetlana Rudenko musically interpreting the color patterns and shapes of Sofia Ariel's artworks and digitally animating them for the synchronized cross-modal perceptual experience by Dr. Joan O. Cabral. Joan Dewey, a famous American costume in the first half of the 20th century, argued that art should be seen as an experience, not just a static, isolated object, and that experiencing art in the museum should be an active, participatory process. Artist Thomas Evans links music and fine art through traditional methods and techniques, using electric pins, sensors, and programming languages to create works of the past in the traditional way of expressing art, where the user can test to amplify and hear a corresponding sound at the same time. Over the decade, research into the aesthetic potential of the non-visual sense has swept through academia with the rise of the field of sensory alteration studies, and has inspired artist designers and curators to begin to incorporate scent, vision, smell, and even taste into their creations and exhibitions. By evoking audience different senses, artworks use their familiar experiences to enable them to reconstruct new perceptions from under the Cross-Modal shift. In the multisensory area of the folklore exhibition at the Taizhou Museum in China, the audience can choose dried fish, a food that is a typical symbol of the fish village of Xitang in Taizhou, forming a bite that leaves the audience with a deep impression of the strong fishy smell. And this interaction expresses a unique way of engaging with folklore exhibition. This format will use food as a creative idea to create a close connection between the viewer and the artwork. Oliver in his large-scale installation, The Weather Project, shown at Tate Modern in 2003. A lion scene transformed the entire hall into a glowing indoor sun. Using monochromatic light, mist, and mirrors, the entire space was filled with an infinitely reflective hazy golden light, creating an atmosphere reminiscent of a sunset. Visitors described how they were not only visually immersed, but also physically affected. Many felt warm, as if they were basking in the real sun. Some even lay on the floor in deep meditation, soaking up the light and losing their sense of time and space. This multisensory environment blurs the line between consumer and emotional experience. It demonstrates how installations art can evoke sensations beyond the visual, creating an associative-like sensory reality. Similarly, this cross-sensory paradigm gives a great deal to accessible cultural and artistic interactions, with the Toronto Art Gallery in Toronto, Canada, offering multisensory guided tours for people with low or impaired vision, where visitors can explore the art space and interact with the popular paintings through touch, hearing, and perception. Meanwhile, with the rise of digital media and virtual reality, cross-modal experiences have reached new heights, enabling users to enter a fully immersive world, blending visual, auditory, and interactive elements to simulate real-world sensations. VR game, Epic Roller Coaster. When you put on the VR glasses to start the game, you will generally real sense of weightlessness. The game Tilt Brush. It allows players to use virtual reality to paint in 3D space, unleash unlimited creativity. Imagine that you can stand in a painting in which every color resonates with sound and every movement creates ripples of light. In this way, the artist is both a painter and a composer, merging landscape and auditory creativity. Another example is the VR painting software Quill, which allows artists to draw three-dimensional works directly in a virtual space and gives them dynamic effects. This proves to people that painting can be not only limited to the visual, it can also be combined with dynamic light effects. Virtual space brings a great sense of immersion, broadening the expression of cross-sensory art. Now, as technology continues to evolve and bring computer interface technology further advances cross-modal experiences, researchers at the MIT Media Lab are exploring how brainwaves EEG can be translated into musical compositions. The project investigates how the expressive power offered by new musical interface can be used for health and to bring about positive change. Their experience invite EEG dynamics and body movements performed through the bodies and software that express basic emotions. The current demonstration of the system combines a richly expressive leader sound system using live motion devices and an ambient music engine controlled by EEG-based emotional indices. The aim of the project is to better understand emotional engagement by creating new musical interfaces and invite emotional engagement and ways to measure and monitor it. Synesthesia, cross-modal metaphor, and multisensory art allow the interplay between different sensory experiences to shape artistic expression across cultures and historical periods. From the poetic associative imagery of Chinese and European literature to the visual musical compositions of Kandinsky and Annie Saltz, the fusion of the senses has provided artists, writers, and musicians with a powerful tool to create immersive and emotionally resonant works. From association as a neurological phenomenon to cross-modal metaphor in language to contemporary multisensory art, the interconnectedness of human perception has now evolved further, providing great support for digital media, installation art, education, and accessibility. Today, technology has further expanded these possibilities with virtual reality, brain-computer interfaces, and interactive installations allowing artists to create environment where visual, auditory, and tactile elements are seamlessly integrated. While the growing emphasis and development of multisensory experiences lead to a deeper and more intuitive understanding of art, I think the answer is yes. But as the converses of neuroscience, art, and technology continue to blur the boundaries between perception and imagination, while the boundaries between the virtual and the real also become blurred, and while the boundaries between the virtual and the real begin to dissolve as this innovation deepen our ability to simulate multisensory realities. I think this is a question we should all continue to explore. As the immersion of virtual world gradually transcends reality, the boundaries of human perception may be undergoing an unprecedented transformation. However, no matter how technology develops, the essence of art is always about the transmission of experience and emotion. It is the intersection of the senses and the extension of the imagination that allows us to break through boundaries and shape our understanding of the world.